everyone. I'm Antoinette Raynon. Welcome to another edition of Meet Your Oradell Neighbors. Today we'll be discussing ending chronic homelessness and veteran homelessness in Bergen County. Bergen County has been recognized by HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, as the first county in New Jersey to end homelessness among veterans. HUD has also recognized the county's efforts to reduce chronic homelessness among the civilian population. In March 2017, federal authorities praised Bergen County's efforts to end long-term homelessness, saying the program's success in finding permanent housing for the most challenging and chronic cases should be duplicated nationwide. I'd like to congratulate and welcome to our discussion Jim Tedesco, Bergen County Executive since 2015, Julia Orlando, Director of the Bergen County Housing, Health, and Human Services Center in Hackensack, and A.J. Luna, Director of Veteran Services in the Department of Human Services, Division of Veteran Services. Welcome, and thank you all for joining us today. Thank you very much. Well, so I'm sitting here with two letters in my hand. One is addressed to Jim Tedesco from Michelle Obama, and the other one is from Matthew Doherty, addressed to Julia, basically for confirming that from the federal government, that confirming that Bergen County has effectively ended homelessness among veterans. So that's a big deal.
Very big.
It's, it's wonderful. But before we talk about how you accomplished this, first, can we define what is chronic homelessness, and what is it, and why are U.S. veterans especially susceptible to being homeless?
So I'll give the definition of chronic homelessness, and I think AJ can talk about the vulnerability of our veterans. So chronic homelessness is when an individual is living in a shelter or on the street for a year or longer, or for has three episodes out of the past 4 years that have been on the street, and they add up to a year. And any of these individuals have a disability. So there's either a mental health disability or a substance use disability in addition. So when you think of homelessness in your mind, it usually is the person outside who's sleeping outside, who is disabled in some way. And so that because of that, they are the most vulnerable amongst our citizens.
And obviously on top of that, with veterans, there are many challenges in the community. Veterans now in this generation have faced multiple deployments. You have a lot of mental health issues with veterans. So I think, and being a veteran myself, I think that part of the issue for veterans becoming more vulnerable is that once they leave the military, they lose that support system. And it's very hard to find it out here when they come back to the civilian world. So couple on top of that, you have mental health issues, you might have some economic challenges, and veterans, sometimes it's hard for them to ask for help. So couple that with all the other things that are going on, high cost of living, access to decent housing, and that's where you have a cocktail of issues that could come together and make veterans more vulnerable than they should be.
I'm just curious where you served.
I served for 7 years with one deployment to Iraq. Mm-hmm. I did one tour in Korea as well, and I served in North Carolina and in Georgia.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Well, can you explain now the mayor's challenge to end veteran homelessness, and how Bergen County in turn got involved to end the veteran homelessness?
Okay. So the Mayor's Challenge is actually an initiative that began with Michelle Obama, with the First Lady Michelle Obama. And it was really a call to mayors and county executives across the country to really work towards ending veterans' homelessness. And as a county, we really wanted to be aligned with the federal directive, which was to end veteran homelessness. And so we began our own initiative locally to really work towards those efforts.
Okay. And I see that she mentioned in her letter that it was, I think, 800 or so local communities really worked with her throughout the country. Yeah. So that really, and
it was,
we're one of them.
It was a wonderful experience to go to the White House and meet Michelle Obama and also the Second Lady, Joe Biden. They actually teamed up to put this Mayor's Challenge together,
Right.
and Julie and I were. But this is more about a commitment, and really this is the commitment that I made when I came into office, and my administration was to commit the resources to work on this issue and this problem. And it's not only the housing side of it. There's the continuum of care and the continuum of ensuring that even once we get somebody that has a home, that they can get a job, they can get the health care they need, if they need substance abuse help, all of that. So one of the commitments was, before I took office, the Veterans Affairs Office had one person. And I said that just wasn't what Bergen County needed for over almost 50,000 veterans. And my philosophy is that if you can't help a veteran, then who should you be helping, right? They took a piece of their life, a part of their life, put it on hold, like AJ did, to serve this country. And so if we can't do the things to help them come back into society and be productive in society and have a wonderful quality of life, then who else should we be doing it for? So my commitment was to the veterans. And so what I did was I decided that we needed a more robust Veterans Affairs Department. And I went and hired AJ away from Fairleigh Dickinson University. He was part of their staff there. And he was actually starting the master's program there. And I met him at an event. And I said, this is the guy that I want.
Wow.
And I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. And
We won't ask you about that. No details necessary.
And so he became the director, and then we hired other veterans to provide services to the rest of the veterans here in Bergen County. And so one of the things we do is we actually have a veteran available to go and meet with veterans. So if a veteran comes into the shelter,
Yes.
we have a veteran there that can talk to them.
Right.
And that's really important, because if you talk to AJ, veterans, it's just like firefighters or police officers, right? They really want to talk to one of their own.
Exactly.
And they'll confide in them, and they'll actually open up to them. And so that's what we found. Julia said, if we do this, I think we'll have a better success rate. And sure enough, it's proved out that way.
And plus, they truly understand, having been there.
Been there.
I mean,
Having
you or
walked
I,
in walked in their shoes,
Right, exactly.
they know.
That's very important. It's wonderful. About how many veterans were homeless when this campaign began? Campaign began in 2009, is that correct? About
Well, the
2009?
center opened in 2009.
Oh, okay.
And at the time that we joined the initiative, which was in 2015, right?
Okay.
2015, we joined the initiative. We placed 150 formerly homeless veterans were placed into permanent housing at the time we were vetted. But what's important to note, because of the continued support of the county executive and having a liaison with the shelter, we continued to house veterans. So it didn't stop. I think people's perception is, does that mean Bergen County never has another homeless veteran? That's not what it means. It means that we have a system of care that is responsive enough to make sure that any veteran who is appearing as homeless can be assisted and placed back into permanent housing in less than 90 days. So that's our effective system of care. And I think that's an important distinction when you talk about functional zero or ending something. It doesn't mean you don't have any more people becoming homeless. You're just able to help them rapidly and efficiently and get them back to permanent housing.
Right. And basically, you put together this new system. Maybe you can explain what that is. I mean, zero is one part of that. What is your system?
What we focused on back in 2015 was forming strategic partnerships. So, being new to govern, I didn't know what to expect. Thanks, T. But what I do know is relationships is what can drive a mission, right? That's what I learned in the military. That's what I learned being a director at FDU. So our first step was to identify who the key players and key stakeholders were in the county that offer the services.
Okay.
That's why I met Miss Orlando, which has been a great relationship ever since. And one of the things that I proposed was, why don't we have a veteran work study or somebody working your shelter to identify the veterans? So once you do that, you create that sense of urgency. You have a veteran in there who gathers all the information, sees where the needs are, where the gaps are, what specific items they're going to need, and then we start that process of developing a housing plan. So we already got them in shelter, but also we have to remember we're dealing with people with all types of issues. So it's our responsibility to go out to the community and find different resources for those issues. For instance, one of our biggest partners were the SSVF providers. Now, an SSVF provider, it stands for Social Services for Veterans and Their Families. This is grant money from the Department of Veteran Affairs that they give to nonprofits to deal with veteran homelessness and rapid rehousing. So we identify those 4 partners. We build a relationship. We do referrals. And once we have people in our shelter system, we start the process of getting them where they need to go or where they need to be. And sometimes, people tend to generalize veterans, but it's not all one size fits all.
Right.
Everybody has a different situation. You might have a veteran who became homeless due to an economic opportunity that they don't have. Okay, well, we have job resources that we can connect you with. You have somebody who might be low income or a senior. We have senior housing or other places we can connect them with. You might have somebody who has a substance abuse problem. We have the VA, we have Newbridge Medical Center, we have Care Plus, so we have different routes that we can direct them to find out why they became homeless in the first place and how do we get them back to sustainability. So I think what we do well in Bergen County is we have the political will, but also we formed a lot of good strategic partnerships with each other. One of the things that I'm very surprised being new in government is that a lot of people don't talk to each other. Which, how do you know what the left hand is doing if you don't know what the right hand is doing, right? Okay, so if you talk and open up that dialogue and that conversation, you'll see, like in this county, when you tell people that we have, over 40,000 veterans, they're astounded. Well, we're the biggest county in the state. We almost have 1 million people.
Right.
And a lot of people have that connection to the military, so they want to help out. So we have to get the community to just be engaged. And with the housing, housing is very difficult. So what we did was we reached out to landlords. We said, do you have any available units? We want to help place our veterans. And then once people started to see that momentum, they did projects in Paramus, they did projects in Emerson, they did projects in Northvale. They're doing a current project right now in Allendale and Washington Township. So people start to see the result, and they know like it's going toward the right things. And then veterans here won't have that problem with housing at all.
And then on a smaller scale, what we did is took all of that and then met every single month with a by name list. So we had people's name on a list that was prioritized by vulnerability. And we worked that list with all those people around a table every single month. And we continue to do that now because we're what's called a sustaining community. Every single month, by name.
We're not just numbers. We have
No, by name.
names.
And that's the only way this work gets done is to, and not only are you doing by name, but everyone around the room who's connected to that person so that we can triage whatever's going on, whatever the obstacles are, so that we can use the resources in the county to make sure that we're using our resources to the people, as Jim had said, that need it the most, that really taking those resources and applying them appropriately to where the needs are in the county.
Right.
Also, just to talk a little bit more about the public participation.
Yes.
We actually spoke to a developer that was developing apartments and building brand new apartments in Woodridge, Westmont. And AJ went out and spoke to them and talked about what we were doing for veterans homelessness. And I believe 5, right? Was it 5?
They gave us 6 extremely low-income apartments, and we had 12 in total that made it to that.
Now that's due to the fact that here's a private builder building apartments at market rate. But when we talked to them about our program and what we were doing, helping veterans, they took those units off the market rate, gave them to us at affordable rates for the veterans. And we actually went there when they opened it up, and to watch the veteran cry when he walked in his front door.
That's wonderful.
It was heart-wrenching.
We gave them hope.
And then there's other partnerships that we have, furnishing a lot of these places. We have relationships with furniture stores and with televisions, and other businesses that want to help veterans.
Right.
They've never known how to, or they've never were asked to.
Sure.
And
Again,
again,
communication.
right. Once you do this,
Yep.
the floodgates start to open.
And people know that they can do
Do
something
something.
and they want to.
Yep.
Yes.
And they feel good about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's wonderful. I was going to ask about how you're finding rentals, so that's one way. How are these funded, these kind of rentals?
A lot of various programs.
Various
you
programs.
have your
I'm
market
just
rate,
curious.
you have subsidized housing. What people don't understand is in Bergen County, everything fluctuates by zip code, right? So
Yes.
two ways that you can get housed. You pay market rate or you get subsidized housing, right? So there's no in between. So what we do is when we look at the individual, we try to see what would be the best option, what they can sustain. Now, if you have a senior who's on fixed income, that's going to be very, very difficult because there's not a chance that the income might increase unless they hit the lottery, right? So what we do is we partner up with like Cliffside Park Housing Authority. They have veteran preference. So if we get a senior moved into Cliffside Park, they're paying 30% of their income, which is what you should be paying, right? And then we're always looking to see where all the affordable housing opportunities in the county. So once we get that information, we look at our client database and we'll start to reach out. One that pops up to mind was the recent one in Franklin Lakes. That was for disabled individuals. So what we did was we contacted all the disabled veterans that we know were in need of better housing.
Okay.
And if they go to that complex, they'll be paying 30% of their fixed income. Now, if you have market rate, you have to look at what you consider affordable, but market rate could be someone like from my generation who needs an employment opportunity. So we keep a database of those as well. So we can get somebody a $20 an hour mechanic job. We can find them an apartment for $1,000, $1,100 in the area that they can sustain. And then we can work on doing other things. So we'll tell them, go to school on the GI Bill. There's more income opportunity there, and we'll try to work with them to see if we can increase that income for a better quality of life. But those are the two ways that you can literally house people.
And you were talking about Oradell going through a master plan review and your planning board and things. One of the things we talk to the towns about is their affordable housing obligation and doing things for veterans. In Paramus, they built specialized units for disabled veterans, and that they got credit, actually extra credit for the affordable housing needs that they had. And so there's a lot of ways to look at helping veterans and people that need housing, and so it's something that while we're taking care of the emergent need, we also need to be out there educating people and talking to people, and we do. We have partners that actually build with us. The county gets funding from the federal government and from the state, and then we work with our private partners to build those units and help those that need affordable housing and veteran housing and special need housing also, which is another big issue. Yep.
I'm curious about Habitat for Humanity. Does that play a part in this at all?
Well, I can say a little bit about that
I'm just curious.
because I am on the board for Habitat for Humanity. So absolutely, and the Habitat for Humanity has worked with the county on some really important developments. We certainly have the 4 units here in Oradell, but the current project that we're doing in the Township of Washington is for 2 veteran families and for 2 senior families. So it's wonderful to be furthering the mission for all of us along with a partner like that.
Just curious, what the process now that this whole process of ending homelessness, how did you start it? There were changes you did, what you did before 2009 and what you did after. What have you done that really has improved and made this possible?
So I love talking about this because I'm so proud of this.
Very passionate.
Very passionate. So as all communities that received HUD funding had to do is they had to develop a 10-year plan. So the County of Bergen developed a 10-year plan. I think probably of any other community that's done a 10-year plan to end homelessness, which will sunset actually next year. We're the first ones who've really achieved most of the outcomes that were set out for us 10 years ago. But one of the key parts of this effort was to retool the homeless system as it was known in Bergen County. We used to have 4 shelters. We now have 1 shelter. We used to have that were open seasonally. They were temporary shelters. Right. Now we have 1 permanent, very large, one-stop facility that was designed around best practices with a priority towards chronic homelessness and really focused on ending homelessness. This county is focused on ending homelessness, not managing it, and ending it. And so all of the design that went into was really thought out, met with stakeholders, people were interviewed. If we were to redo our homeless system, what would it look like? I think one of the most important things that the county did is once they built the Bergen County Housing, Health, and Human Services Center, which is open 24 hours a day, which is 365 days of the year, which is what we call a low barrier. People can come into the center very easily if they need help.
It's very large.
It's very large, 27,000 square feet. And is the partnerships, as AJ talked about. So one of the center management is done through the Housing Authority of Bergen County, and I work for the Housing Authority of Bergen County. And it's very unusual for a housing authority to be at the helm of a homeless facility. And what that has done is it's allowed us to prioritize vouchers and housing efforts for people in the community. They have a set aside of vouchers. So when AJ and I were focused on veteran housing, we were able to get vouchers for people who were veterans who needed housing.
And explain what a voucher is.
So a voucher is a subsidy. It is basically what it's doing is it's providing that affordability so that the person who has the subsidy is able to pay 30% of their income towards the housing. Okay, right. And that, is what really makes the difference so that they have enough money for food and to live and to pay bills and do all those other things that we all need to do. But I think that the design is just really, has been so effective because it provides a facility to do shelter, but also we're a feeding program. 73,000 meals a year are provided out of that one facility to the public, not just to people that are in shelter.
So people just can come
anytime for lunch and dinner can come in. And
all done by volunteers.
Wow.
All of it. It's amazing.
Food prepared and served by volunteers.
Yes.
From people from all over Bergen County.
And why that's important is because every night there's a family, families come in to serve, and they get to see homelessness up close and personal. And they'll say, wow, I went to school with that person. Oh, that's my neighbor. People don't realize the face of homelessness in Bergen County, what it looks like. And it's a very eye-opening experience, and it makes people, I think, more amenable to support affordable housing, to support what it is that we're all striving to do every day.
And that's about making Bergen County a community, right? We're the largest county in the state, but we're really a small community when you look at it. At it, right? We have 70 individual municipalities like Oradell, but we're really one big community, and it shows when you have people coming 365 days a year to volunteer to help those that need help the most.
Right. And I know there are certain charities that you also work with, community organizations. What are some? I know Catholic Charities, Soldier On, Community Hope, the North Hudson Action Corporation. So you work with them on a regular basis?
Yeah, there are SSVF providers. We also have Making It Home, the Bergen County Volunteer Center, Habitat for Humanity, Bergen County United Way, anybody that wants to chip in. We like to think of ourselves as like the ultimate partner. So we don't, if it comes to helping veterans out, we're not gonna say no. So we're always looking to develop those relationships and those partnerships, and we make everybody understand that everybody can contribute something to this problem. So it's not just, the government's function to deal with the problem. Everybody in the community, and this is why I love Bergen County, can do something to chip in. And when everybody chips in a small amount, then we get the big results that we've seen so far.
Every day we have donations at the center. Every day. We had a donation yesterday, a very large donation from a family that had, they brought the donation on behalf of their father that they had lost. And they were just in tears, feeling like they were doing something to honor their father, that he would have been so, it would have been so important to him. And I think that just having a place where people can come and they can contribute in whatever way, whether it's a meal, whether it's a donation, they want to help veterans, they want to volunteer their time. It is truly, all of us are needed to do this work. It's not just one person. What Bergen County has exemplified, I believe, as a national model, is that it's a collaboration.
Right.
It's your political will and resources. It's your collaboration of your nonprofits, your faith-based, and government all working together for a common purpose, which again is to end homelessness. It's to put people into permanent housing, and also providing the wraparound services to make sure that they stay in the housing. And AJ and I work very hard to keep our eye. Once we house people, we don't forget about them. We stay connected to them, because we know that that's the only way to really keep people permanently housed, is to make sure that we continue to provide those services towards them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And getting to zero, can you just explain what that is just a little bit more? And
Oh, that was very hard. And it's hard because getting to zero is data. So there's all these wonderful things that we talk about, but we had to report data every single month to Community Solutions, which were the ones that were taking a look at our data. So AJ and I were tasked to actually house a certain amount of people every month. And I think why this is important is because when you're doing this work, I think in most places there's not a sense of urgency. We had a sense of urgency in our community, in our county, and that data. So if we were, if we were not working as hard as we needed to, we could say, okay, we're falling behind in our data. We need to make sure that we're getting people housed more rapidly. And why aren't we? How are we getting stuck? And so functional zero is actually a metric, which means that the number of people that are exiting to permanent housing from homelessness is equal to or greater than the amount of people coming into your system. So so if I have 5 coming in every month, I need to have at least 5 going out or more. So we have to make sure that, number one, our outreach is really robust, and also that our data is really very good. So the county has amazing people that work with what's called HIMIS, Homelessness Management Information System. We report that to the state. We report it, nationally. They know what our numbers are, and so when Jim says that we're at functional zero, and if we're questioned about that, we can say no. The data. That's data. That is not just us declaring that. Right. It's actually been vetted through. The chronic was about 6 months, and the veterans was about, I'm going to say close to 9 months to prove that we got there. So we were vetted very strongly. We had to really prove that not only were the metrics there and the data was there, but that your systems are strong enough to sustain those efforts going forward, so that the systems are in place that even if none of the 3 people sitting here are here in Bergen County, those systems will continue beyond the work that we're doing. And I think that's our greatest contribution to what we're doing.
And to further that, there's been cities and counties from all over the country that have come.
Yeah.
I was just going. That was my next question. So yeah.
To look at the model. We had a few months ago. There was a group from Florida here, from a county in Florida. There's been some others from all over the country to actually be, first they've heard about it through the nation because of the reporting system and because others are trying to do that, but Julia's, said it right in the beginning. We're a model that should be followed and can be followed. The thing that I see is the commitment, right? People say that they want to do it, but you've heard for the last almost half hour how much effort it takes, and not only effort, but money. And so there has to be that commitment from the top to really say, we really want to do this. And there's models like ours that have proven that it can work.
Wonderful. So what are your current goals? Do you have any current goals going forward? And
Always.
What are some of them? And any final thoughts?
Well, I
on all
think
of this?
what I can say is, first and foremost, you want to sustain.
Yes.
And I can honestly say I've been presenting at conferences, and when people ask me about sustaining, I always say to them, I think sustaining was harder than getting there, because what we're doing now is we're making sure that no one ages in to chronic homelessness. Making sure that, so in other words, we need to house people before they've been homeless very long. And so we keep our eye monthly. So if you can imagine now, we have meetings for chronic and at-risk populations. We have meetings for veterans. So a big part of what we're focused on right now is sustaining those efforts. And we also have our eye right now to beginning the work on young adult homelessness, which is 18 to 21 population, which is different. It may include veterans, and it may include people who possibly could become chronic, but because they're young adults, they're presenting their own unique challenges. And so we will be turning our efforts now to focusing on that.
All right. Any final thoughts?
I guess the last thing I would say is that there's a medical piece to this and a mental health piece to this. And one of the successes we've had is we've taken what was called Bergen Regional Medical Center. It's now under a new operator, a not-for-profit operator, Care Plus Bergen, which is part of Care Plus New Jersey, who is a partner with us. But we've also now signed an agreement with the VA to be a choice facility. So now veterans can get approval by their doctor or by the VA to be able to go to Newbridge Medical Center right here in Paramus without having to go to East Orange and get some of those diagnostic medical services that they may have had to wait for, or they may have not even wanted to go and get because they had to travel. Or the other piece of it is, when we looked at this, is a lot of the time they never took their spouse because they didn't want to put their spouse on a bus to go down to the hospital, spend all day. And what would happen is the doctor would talk to them, tell them everything. They'd come home, and they weren't able to remember everything to tell their spouse. So one of the things that Newbridge Medical Center affords is the availability of closeness, proximity, and they can go there, get valet service, see a doctor, get diagnostic work done, get blood work, MRIs, mammograms for women veterans and things, and go home in 2-3 hours. And the spouse can go there and be with them, and or get other follow-up services than at Newbridge is. So that's the other important component to this. Both from the veteran side and from the general health population side of Bergen County, but specifically from the choice program with veterans. So we had worked on that for almost 2 years to get the Veterans Administration to agree that Newbridge Medical Center can be a choice facility. So I say that because I know this is going to be seen throughout the county, but it's an important component to the success of our program because of the medical side of, especially on the veterans side, PTSD or substance abuse or any other number of either mental health or addiction issues that they may have. We can do it right here. So.
It's all close to home.
It alleviates that burden, and we're just trying to make Bergen County the best place for veterans. The housing, I'm very proud of the work that we've done with the leadership of the county exec, with the partnership with Ms. Orlando. We're focusing on health. We're also focusing on employment opportunities. Since 2015, we've helped 127 veterans get hired. So we're going to continue to build those relationships, and whatever we have to do to make their quality of life better in the county, that's what we're going to do.
That's the goal.
That's our goal.
Wonderful.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you very much for coming here.
Thank you.
Thank you very
And we
much.
appreciate you
Yes.
talking and letting us talk about this and letting
Absolutely.
us let the people of Oradell and the people of Bergen
Yes.
County know about what we're doing.
It's very
because
important.
that's important.
It's very important, and hopefully more people will be involved.
Yes.
Get involved and have to help.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.